Quinton Crawford is a writer, author, teacher, and organisation leader with over 15 years of professional experience. And he's here with us now. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. It is evening where I am.
Yeah.
I'm assuming
Nice.
you're in Europe.
Yep, I'm in the UK here, which
Okay.
is nice.
I'm,
The weather
I'm
isn't too great at the moment, but it used to be good, maybe a week or two ago.
in California.
Ah, nice. So, can you tell us just a little bit about some of the books that you've written then?
Yes. To briefly, my first book is called Knowledge for Tomorrow. And that book, I essentially began with my essays from my bachelor's program. I didn't want to waste them. I decided to combine them. Um, one of them I got a standing ovation from my class, and I knew I had to do something more with that essay.
Yeah.
Disrespect for Nature was the title.
Absolutely.
My second book is a children's book called Muchi the Suchi Visits the Peace People. And since as a teacher in being a substitute for several years, at least in my area, and also in other countries, I noticed that history books tended to only focus on males, males destroying and conquering.
Yeah.
Nothing much for the girls. So I decided to focus the children's book that I created more towards girls, in the story of peace, of times of peace in world history. My last book that I created was called The Global Situation.
Ooh.
I've always had a strong interest in science.
Yeah.
In that book, I decided to do majority of focus on environmental damage, species destruction, and of course, I had to put in a bit about pandemics.
Yeah.
Since we're going through one, the time that I was almost done with that book, and I had to include that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That is a global situation and a half. And I guess, has that given you perhaps a little bit more time to write, given that a lot of the year we haven't really been allowed to go out and do stuff and have fun?
Yeah, it actually did. Actually, at the very beginning of the pandemic, I was in talks with another publisher, and decided to switch publishers to one called Reader's Magnet. During the time of the pandemic, I definitely had plenty of time to revise a bit information.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like a whole year.
Yeah, basically. I guess, have you spent more time than ever perfecting these books and making sure they're ready?
Yes. One of the things that I definitely gravitated towards is when someone told me, what is my legacy going to be?
Yeah.
If I pass away, legally, I actually did die once, 2018, after having a stroke. And my heart stopped during the coma I was in. Don't want to go too much into that.
Wow.
But I have to say that before I fully pass on, whatever that's going to be, I want to make sure there's something that I left behind. It's mainly for the youth, if possible.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of true, because most jobs, you don't really leave something behind and have a record of you, really. Like if you work in a shop, it's people's memories maybe, But even then, I guess it's like nobody's a big fan of you if you work in a shop. But an author, you can have that.
Yeah, yeah, that, and I've never had any kids,
Yeah.
so I've been kind of feeling bad about that.
Yeah.
And I have plenty of nieces and a nephew, but I don't have any cousins for them. It's made for
Yeah.
me. Well, at least I've done something.
Yeah. Absolutely. And they say that there's a book in everyone, and you've written quite a few, so I guess you've done better than everyone, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm not sure about everyone, but I did also create an autobiography,
Oh, yeah.
which will not be published until I think it's scheduled for around Thanksgiving holiday time,
Yeah.
late um, November
Yeah.
this year. I
And
may
how?
reach out again for that.
Oh, yeah. That would be good. And how does writing an autobiography, which is real, differ from writing a fictional book? Is it harder or maybe even easier?
Mm, actually, I think it was kind of equal because the the fictional book was the children's book, which is actually I had some historical truths in there,
Yeah.
different historical figures from different countries, different parts of the world. Um, the autobiography, I had to segment that in 10-year increments.
Yeah.
The first 10 years of my life, what I can remember, in the next 10 years, and the next 10, and so on. I'm just turned 50,
Yeah.
just literally a few weeks ago.
Wow. Yeah.
I'm surprised that I made it this far,
Yeah.
but well, at least I've kind of left something about that, at that time, those times in my life.
Yeah.
Hopefully, the stories of the things that I went through in my lifetime, at least so far, will be able to help somebody else.
Yeah. And I guess because as it's the same with most people, the first 10 years of your life you don't remember as well as the next 10 and so on. Have you had to perhaps rely a bit on maybe parents' accounts or, people that were
Yeah,
alive and more conscious at that time rather than your own memory?
I have a pretty good memory of different phases of my life. I decided to focus on, at least in the earlier parts of my life, on the major events that stuck with me.
Yeah.
Serious nightmares, which really shook me quite a bit. I remember, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie It
Oh, yes.
before.
Yeah.
Well, my father decided to show me the movie when I was really, really young. And since then, I've been terrified of clowns. Uh,
Yeah.
um, my parents also took me to see the movie. It was called. Well, it was two other scary movies that took me to. Like The Omen. Yeah, really good choice. My parents there.
Yeah.
And there was one where there were some aliens that came to Earth. I forgot the name of that movie. I remember that the spaceship went over a mountain of some type in a desert, and my dream was somewhat similar to that. But I
Yeah.
I put it in the book. I don't want to ruin the
Yeah.
whole
No
story.
spoilers. And have these horror films kind of influenced your writing at all, or have you preferred to stay well away from them?
Well, haven't really influenced my writing too much, and that's done as much as I can figure, um, with the exception of having to add it into my autobiography
Yeah.
as a somewhat piercing dream that influenced my life.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's. I can't say too much on influencing my writing,
Mm.
with the exception of possibly the global situation.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. And that one would
I've
make
had a
sense, I
lot of.
guess.
What was that?
And that one would make sense
Yeah,
to be influenced by
I,
horror. Yeah.
I have a lot of concerns about our world
Yeah.
and all the damage that we've been doing to it over the last, I guess we can say, century or two.
Mm. Yeah, for
And
sure.
I don't know how old you are, but
Yeah.
I'm hoping that you'll live as long as I have. So
Mm. Hopefully. Yeah. We'll see about that.
yeah.
Well, what is your kind of writing schedule like? Are you one of these people that wakes up at 4 in the morning and gets it all down, or are you more kind of a normal schedule?
Well, I I've spent all night for 2 nights in a row sometimes because I was in a roll.
Yeah.
I just couldn't stop.
Wow.
My thoughts were going like a mile a minute, uh, a kilometer a minute. your your range. Um, I like to do research on
Hmm.
several different topics. So sometimes I do topics, 2 or 3 topics at a time,
Wow.
and I write about 2 different subjects at a time. One paragraph here, another paragraph, a couple pages later, and let's put it all together
Yeah.
in some way, and find some good pictures that match.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I I've never really followed a schedule
Hmm.
when it comes to writing because I just can't think that way.
Yeah.
I have to go with the flow, whatever's coming to me,
Hmm.
um, whatever I'm feeling, to go to and do. I'll do it.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess how do you manage to keep having all this inspiration, right, in 2 nights in a row? Because a lot of people would get writer's block from that.
Oh no, I end up falling asleep some point in time without my own notice. I'll conk out on my bed. I'll sit down in my bed, and next thing I know, I'm waking up.
Hmm. I guess, are you able to find you were you writing and then it just suddenly stops and that's when you fell asleep, or it like the writing gets more and more lazy, or do you kind of type it up maybe?
I just kind of fade out in some way. I just end up
Yeah.
standing up and walking over to my bed. It's all in the same room, my computer and all is
Yeah.
in my own bedroom, and I just stand up, walk over to my bed, and sit down, turn the TV on,
Hmm.
and bam, I'm out.
Yeah. Well, I wonder who it is on the TV that whose voice sends you to sleep, but we won't want to
Uh,
insult them.
Sometimes I'm watching CNN. I like what's going on CNN sometimes,
Yeah.
or I just change the channel to something else, and that happens to take me out.
Yeah, absolutely. So, other than your autobiography, do you have plans for any future books that you're thinking of writing and releasing?
Yes. My first book, Knowledge for Tomorrow, was published back in 2005.
Wow.
And I think it's time to do an update
Yeah.
to that book. I've been thinking about it, but haven't really sat down on it and started really working on it.
Yeah.
I do have, I think I do have the first chapter completed,
Mm.
and I'm focused on education, um, just improvements that I think I believe I've seen that need to happen. um, from kindergarten all the way to high school.
Yeah.
I believe that there's room for improvement,
Yeah.
not just here in this country, but in several others. I believe I did modify that first chapter to include several other countries, I think including yours. There's things that I noticed that seem to be missing that could definitely be improved for the future of those kids, wherever they go to in the future. And also another book. Well, I was thinking about creating another book mainly for boys, towards becoming men. Because there's a little confusion that I see in what we as men develop into from what we learn as boys.
Yeah.
How to treat our respective mates.
Yeah.
Some of us do several bad things. A lot of us don't, but some of us do.
Yeah.
And I believe the next children's book, I should focus on that in some way.
Yeah.
There's many different areas that go into there. I've got to put my mind around it a little better, because I'm sure that's going to be another all-nighter, a couple all-nighters to get done.
Well, where are we able to check out all your books if we'd like to read them?
Well, I have the 3 that are open and published now on my website, which is called oneglobalbook.com. One Global Book is all as one word, then .com. I should mention one of the books that's on my mind to do. It will be called Passive Genocide.
Ooh.
I believe that I should make that one more towards how we're poisoning ourselves, for one. There's a lot of foods and chemicals in our foods, in our water.
Yeah.
I don't know that one. Around the world. Just a moment. Alexa, turn off. I'm sorry. It just thought I said something to it.
It happens.
Yeah. I'm going to try to find someone else to help me write some of these other books, especially the children's book.
Yeah.
Because I have there's so much to do, not just in my personal life, but so much to research for each one of those books. And I must get help this next time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show today. It's been great to have you on.
Yes, thank you for having me.